Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News.
Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Ohi Odiai. Good morning, Ohi. Thank you for joining us on the morning show.
Morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ohi.
Welcome.
As usual, let's start off with these day newspapers. The major headline says, business leaders upbeat about better economy as Buhari signs 2020 birthday budget. According to this day, business leaders have hailed the return to the January to December budget cycle, which was heralded yesterday when President Buhari assented to the 2020 appropriation bill on the day he turned 77. Well, according to the president, it's actually a deficit budget, where he has promised to send the 2020 borrowing plan for the funding of the budget to the National Assembly with a plea to the heads of the federal legislature to ensure its speedy consideration. Now, you guys have talked about this earlier, the fact that we're returning to the January to December budget cycle. And also, this is also the first time we're seeing a situation where the budget is signed without any controversy between the executive and the legislature. Doctor?
Yes, I mean, as you said earlier, and as we tried to discuss with our guest, Johnson Chukwu, earlier, I mean, it's a good development, greater certainty in terms of what will happen between January and December next year. And we hope that, implementation being the major area of challenge, that we'll see improvement in terms of budget performance. Because previously, we've had problems with budget performance. And key persons in the MDAs giving excuses about delaying the procurement process, about the budget not being cash backed, and the government having adopted an envelope system, having issues. And then the bigger issues, had to do also with revenue generation. And I think that to make this budget 2020 work, the federal government has, tried to put certain things in place. The finance bill, 2019, that went along with the appropriation bill for next year. And then the production sharing contracts amendment bill. These are areas, in which government is hoping to get revenue. And then, of course, you have also the approval, the concurrence between the executive and the legislature on the issue of the external borrowing plan of about $29.96 billion, which is supposed to be used for infrastructure, especially rail, as we pointed out in the conversation with Johnson Chukwu. So yes. I can always say, well, let's keep our fingers crossed. I think that President Buhari himself realizes that there are two major issues before him, as he completes his second term, to get the economy to work, because this economy has to work. And then also to leave a legacy in terms of free and fair elections. Which is a point that he made yesterday alongside the signing of the budget.
We'll get into that shortly.
Okay.
We'll get into that shortly. Okay. Let's also take yet another headline story in these day newspapers. House shuts down 6-year single term for president. Governors, according to this day, moves to amend the 1999 Constitution to reveal the tenure of the president and state governors from the extant 2 terms of 4 years each to a single 6-year term collapsed yesterday at the House of Representatives. But already the vice president, former vice president, Atiku Abubakar, has reacted, faulting the decision of the lawmakers. According to Atiku Abubakar, he says, in view of the challenges facing our current democratic order, especially the culture of rigging that subverts the will of the people, 6-year single term would have ended such untoward practices in our electoral process. The desperation for second term by the incumbent is the main reason why they go for broke and set the rule book on fire, thereby making free and fair elections impossible. Leila, your take?
It's a double-edged sword, and that's very clear here. But what is disappointing, as former Vice President Atiku Abubakar also pointed out, is the speed at which the House rejected this idea, because it goes to show how invested they are in self-interest on this particular matter. Because in reality, if you look at it and if you look at the arguments for and against, you will see that there are arguments for both. It's a double-edged sword. Going ahead to shut it down so quick is simply an indication that you are trying to protect your own selfish interests. And that's exactly what we're trying to avoid in our polity. So in a way, I think we've just shed some light on a serious issue here, which is, are our lawmakers making decisions for us, or are they making decisions for themselves? I mean, some people may say it's an obvious obvious question that we already know the answer to, but you continue to do things like this, so we will continue to speak up about things like this. It was way too quick to reject it. It's not that bad an idea.
Ketura?
I happen to think that a 6-year term is far too long. Now, I know that, I think if we left it at 4 years and then said you cannot re-enter, I personally think that would be much better. Because you see a lot of dictatorships taking place around the continent, people who do not want to be ousted, people like Dr. said, who refuse to leave their positions, their tenures, once it's over. So, whilst I do think it was a good idea, it didn't pass for a reason. You know, I think the term should have been made shorter in order to gain approval.
Doctor, your take?
Well, I mean, we took this subject earlier on, and I was saying that given the fact that politicians in Nigeria are always very desperate, if you allow an average Nigerian politician, he wants to stay in power forever.
Go for his 7th term.
And it's not easy to leave, you know, the corridors of government because, you know, the tenure could end just when you are beginning to learn the ropes and you are beginning to settle down to it. But the thing, of course, is that it's about service and it's about the country.
Yeah.
And nobody can monopolize power. You know, representation is very important. Secondly, we have seen that Nigerian politicians, when they go in there, the second term is just an opportunity to just remain in office. If you do an audit of most of the governors we have had, they tend to do very well within the next 4 years, within the first term or 4 years. Now, when it is the second term, it's rarely that you find that they make an effort. If there are exceptions, I would like to be told. And that's why it makes sense to just say, do 6 years.
And leave.
Maybe spend 1.5 years to settle into the office, then make your impact. Maybe that will put pressure more on people to say, I only have just 6 years. Let me make my mark because I may not get a second chance.
Because the argument is 4 years is
where
too
John
short.
the honorable member of the House of Representatives is coming from is very clear. But obviously, I mean, the lawmakers, his colleagues didn't even want to listen to the idea at all because they were considering their own selfish
Well,
interests.
lately you just said that the argument is that 4 years is too short, but how is it that America and the UK managed to do so well with 4 years?
Because they're developed countries, because they're developed societies. And what we have to understand
we cannot keep making excuses. We need to start making actions.
No, if you look at it, if you look in every presidential history that we've had since 1999, at the end of the day, 4 years does not seem long enough for someone to really come in, settle, and make a difference. Now, where it gets even more complicated is that we have politics that doesn't run in continuum, which means that even after 8 years, someone comes in and there's hardly any continuum in government. Therefore, going for 4 years and saying, okay, maybe just do 4 years and then you only have 4 years and it's done, doesn't leave leaders enough time to really make an impact.
Well,
whereas the argument for Doctor just laid out the framework for it of the first 2 years being for
Obama's administration, right? How quickly did Trump change everything around in 4 years?
That's what I'm saying.
So my point is you can change things in 4 years.
You can change things in 4 years, but it's not...
Two things. Why the length of tenure is important and could be controversial in our environment. There are other things that we also need to worry about. The electoral process itself, we have a lot of problems with that. If we don't solve that, even if a man spends 10 years, he may not be able to make a difference. Our institutions need to be strengthened, okay? 3, you need an enlightened electorate. Many of the problems we have is also because the average Nigerian voter operates at the elementary level. All of these complexes, you know, is part of the problem that we have in Nigeria. But I think it's important that we begin to take the issues one by one and treat all of them and then merge them holistically later so that we can deepen the electoral process and the leadership recruitment process. Because it's not just about how many years you spend. Who is spending
the time?
that tenure?
Capability of the leader.
You can pick some ignoramus.
And then you're stuck with that person for 6 years.
Let's move on to the point. Let's move on to the point.
And it's a source of disorientation.
With that punchline, we'll move on to the punch.
Drum roll.
So the top headline, the punch, scores of ASU members face bleak Christmas over IPPIS. For international view, ASU is the Union of Universities here in Nigeria. FG is Universities Workers Employer, says the University of Nigeria. No pay, no work about university lecturers, tells FG, the federal government. According to the Punch, university lecturers who fail to register for the integrated payroll and personal information system might face a bleak Christmas as the federal government insisted on the directive of the president on the payroll system. Doctor, many are wondering why ASU is fighting against this IPPIS payment. We're seeing a situation, for instance, if this system will be able to expose a situation where a lecturer might be receiving a payroll from like 2 or 3 institutions.
Well, I mean, ASU's position, or if you like, let's say a faction of ASU, because there's also the Congress of Nigerian Academics, also made up of university teachers, who do not share the view, of ASU in this matter. ASU is insisting that, the integrated personnel and payroll system, IPPIS, would erode from university autonomy. And we've had some spokespersons for ASU who have been on this program, and we've asked them, how does this, violate the University Autonomy Act of 2007? And I was not convinced. The gentleman was just talking about autonomy, university autonomy. And I said, no, this is not about autonomy. This is about transparency and accountability. And to make sure that people who are paid by the federal government are properly captured and documented within the system in a digital manner to eliminate either duplication of salaries or overpayment or the existence of goods. And the IP system is already working at the federal level. And if ASU has any peculiarities, as they claim, the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation made itself available to negotiate, to discuss, to engage with ASU. But I think in this matter, ASU has proved very difficult. Hence, government said, look, if you don't meet this deadline, we will not pay. And ASU is saying, if you don't pay us, we will not work. But at the end of the day, I think that they should continue to discuss. If the federal government has gone ahead to say, if you don't enroll, we will not pay you, I mean, government made that very clear. True. And I think it's for ASU to reconsider his position. I hope no university lecturer, however, will have a bleak
Christmas.
But they also said that they wanted to propose their own system as well. Remember, that's what he said when he came on the show. Where's their system?
Yeah, we'll see how that pans out. Let's move on straight to the Daily Trust.
About 30 seconds.
Yes, Daily Trust will take just 2 headlines quickly. 2023, I'll stop desperate politicians. That's according to the president. Same headline, if we move on straight to The Nation, says, Buhari to aspirants, don't use my name for 2023 bid. That was the point we were trying to make, a doctor.
Yes, well, they don't need to use his name.
We are out of time. Let's go down for a short break on the morning show. As interesting as that analysis was.